the first time as a physician, I'm scared to see what's to come.
The COVID-19 pandemic fracturing Utah's healthcare system.
Our ICUs are pushed to their capacities and our hospital staff is stretched thin.
All while broken communities split on how to contain the virus.
People need to take this more seriously. Mask mandate, I'm going to say it. It needs to happen.
Children should never put a mask on, ever. It's criminal.
Unfortunately, our state is experiencing its largest surge of coronavirus yet.
I don't know what to do anymore.
And as cases go up, the death rate follows.
We'd hope to say that we're going to hit shore and see sunshine, but instead a flood and a storm are coming ahead of us.
This is a Fox 13 in-depth special report. COVID-19, the ultimate price. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm Kelly Chapman. As of tonight, just over 600 Utahns and more than 200,000 Americans have paid COVID's ultimate price, death. Over the next 30 minutes, we are going beyond the numbers to get a personal take from Utahns on COVID-19. Now, the people you're about to hear from all have lost a loved one to the virus. They also have some pretty strong opinions on the pandemic. Joining us are David Baker, Robert Moody, and Gabby Werimo. Dave and Robert both lost their mothers this past spring to coronavirus, while Gabby lost her husband, Roberto. Her whole family caught the virus. Roberto was just 37 years old when he passed away.
We don't know how we got it. We just know that our whole family got infected. Our whole family had to be quarantined at the same time. When we finally got him to the hospital, see him collapse, and just how the light in his eyes turned off, basically, was too hard. He was healthy. He was the healthiest of us. He didn't even have a cavity. It's not a matter of how old you are or how sick you are or what you have, because he was 100% healthy.
So my mom had just turned 71 in April, and we lost her at the end of May. It was so hard not having a final goodbye in my sense of like hugging someone or giving her a kiss.
I know it's hard, Robert. I know.
My mom was 91 years old. She lived in an assisted living home. It was a small facility here in Salt Lake. There were 40 residents in the home, and 24 of them tested positive. 10 of them died. It's almost an incubator. They don't really have any choice in the matter. She couldn't obviously go anywhere else. She couldn't do anything on her own. So she was at the mercy of the situation. She died at the end of April. The toughest part is that we couldn't even go in to see her.
Each of you came to our station today. Again, we have strict policies and guidelines, but you were each wearing a face mask. Now, the wearing of face masks seems to become political and debate in action. I want to ask each of you, why do you think that is? What is it with face masks that people have such an issue with?
I think it's a serious mistake to politicize the wearing of face masks. I think that it's a basic, fundamental issue where we're not only protecting ourselves, but really protecting others. The whole idea of, oh, it's not masculine if you wear a face mask, or you're a tough guy if you don't wear one, or that sort of thing. It's nonsense.
Gabby, what do you think about it?
Well, I work for a big retailer, and we are supposed to make sure that everybody's wearing masks, but it's incredible how much people fight just to put the mask on while you're shopping, while you're gonna be like, I don't know, 10 minutes, half an hour. I work there for 10, 12, 14 hours a day, and I have to wear my mask. And I don't feel like it restrains me or restricts me in any way. And yes, like David said, it's a big mistake to politicize it. It's not a matter of politics. It's a matter of health. It's a matter of common decency. It's a matter of taking care of other people, not just you.
So how do you feel when you hear and see large gatherings of people, some immense in size, some even planned parties where people are there, not social distancing, not wearing face coverings? How does that make you feel? What do you think when you see that?
Irresponsible behavior.
It's so much anger. You just want to yell at them and tell them, make them understand, shake them and say, this is not a joke, this is not a game. You can lose someone very important. You can lose your own life.
Even if every rule, law, and mandate was enacted, would the American people follow them?
I don't think so.
Probably not.
No, I don't think that you can get everybody to respond because we're too diverse culture, and in all fairness, the last 40 years have created more of that divisiveness in our American culture in general. So that is the toughest situation of all. You can't legislate the compliance.
Yeah, it's weird that we live in a state that it's like choose the right, love one another, and that's not the message I get from what I see. So,
because of the pandemic, how do you think it's contributed to the behavior and the mental state of the American people?
You know, there used to be a sense of national pride. Americanism, it really meant that we could overcome anything. It's torn apart the fabric of America at this point. We have too many mixed messages and too many private agendas, but I think there has to be a uniformity of message and direction.
In recent weeks, the state of Utah, like so many other states in the nation, are seeing a surge in coronavirus cases. Some are calling it round 2. And it coincides with school children returning to the classroom. Do you think Utah school districts across the state are making the right decision in allowing teachers and students to return to in-person learning?
That's a tough one because I have grandchildren in elementary school, and with working parents, it's extremely tough on them because there is no child care. My granddaughter in 2nd grade has been on the virtual learning, virtual school now, and in all fairness, I hope it continues for quite a while, especially for the younger kids who it's tough to get them to keep their masks on and not want to play at recess with, you know, all the other kids. But until we achieve a level of vaccination, it's the only way I think that we should go.
My 2 younger children, they are going back into in-person class. It's hard for them to stay home because of everything that's happening. Is the little piece of normality for them now to be back at school. But at the same time, it's taking a toll on their mental health because of the anxiety of what if I get it again? What if it happens again? What if my friends get sick?
Gabby, those questions are on so many people's minds right now. There are 41 school districts in Utah. All of them have some form of in-person learning taking place right now, except for one. The Salt Lake City School District is entirely virtual. Still to come, as the debate rages on, how do you think our federal and state governments are handling the pandemic? Our panelists don't hold back on their opinions. Plus,
I'm moving heaven and earth to safeguard our seniors from the China virus, to distribute a safe and effective vaccine before the end of the year.
but will that come to fruition? The concerns our guests have when it comes to a vaccine that's so desperately needed.
Biden is the shutdown candidate. The Democrats are the shutdown party. They'll shut down your freedom, and they will shut down the greatest economic comeback in the history of our country.
Donald Trump's dead and still saying, we're rounding the corner. It's going away. We're learning how to live with it. You're asking us to learn how to die with it, and it's wrong.
We're now 4 days away from one of the most contentious presidential elections the United States has ever seen, and the pandemic has ramped up the intensity. From protests to rallies, the political climate is divided and at times aggressive. The only certainty is the virus will not go away with election results, and the health of America will remain front and center. It's an unavoidable issue we want to take to our guests tonight. I want you to raise your hand if you think the federal government is doing enough to control the pandemic. No hands raised. All right. Why? Why is that? What are they not doing? What should they be doing?
We need people like Dr. Fauci to be the primary leader of the directions, of what we should do. We don't need division within partisan politics. We don't need any of that. This goes far beyond politics. This is personal life and death for all Americans, and we should be unified in our response to the virus and our steps going forward.
You know, here we have the opportunity to come together as a country and possibly even as the world to defeat this enemy, and it's become a pissing contest between the politicians. It's sad.
In numerous past comments, President Donald Trump has said there will be a coronavirus vaccination before the end of the year. And we're getting close. Do you believe that?
I'll trust the medical professionals first.
I agree 100% with Robert.
Yes, it's hard to believe that in so little time we're going to have a safe vaccine.
Even if there was a vaccine readily available to all Americans, would you take it?
You think on your family's well-being and yourself's well-being. And a vaccine might help to protect them, but if it's not 100% safe, is it going to protect them or is it going to make it worse?
I look back, and some of us are old enough to remember the polio scare and having that vaccine finally available. My father was a polio victim, a paraplegic from it. It took 40 years to develop a polio vaccine. And I don't want to see that happen with any kind of a vaccine for the coronavirus. That's the danger. Trying to rush something, jumping over proper procedures, protocols, adequate testing. When they say it's safe, when they say it's effective, okay, sign me up.
Governor Gary Herbert, from the very beginning, the onset of the pandemic, held news conferences, along with other elected officials. Lieutenant Governor Spencer Cox leading the coronavirus task force here in the state of Utah. Do you think they've completed their mission?
No.
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 Okay, we had some pretty strong, quick no's there. Let's talk about that. Why? What has the governor done wrong or done right? Or what would you like to see happen?
I think that the newest change is a smarter change. There are some counties that have such small populations that possibly don't need the mask mandate. But it felt so much like we're in a football game. We're going to keep changing the goalpost to change what we want at that moment.
He's done a far better job than Florida, Mississippi, Georgia, even Texas. But it's still not enough.
Initially, when the pandemic hit the United States and there was a shutdown of all non-essential businesses, do you think that was worth the price of possibly their business and their livelihood?
That's a hard one.
That is a hard one. I think that, the underlying truth is you can't expect the economy to recover until you have a handle on controlling the virus.
I think it's better to lose your business than to lose your loved ones. Maybe some people might think otherwise. Maybe for some people it's like, but it's my life. But if you actually don't have your life or your loved one's life, it's when you actually start appreciating the actual value of things. You can recover from a monetary loss and from a material loss, but not from a person's loss.
Right now, there continues to be contention between both parties on another stimulus plan. What can be done right now for the American people? Do we still need help?
Yes, definitely. This is when we're losing everything now. People are starting to lose stuff now, and there'd be so much help to help us out. Definitely, I think everybody would use love a little bit of help.
Anything off the top of your mind? You know, a couple months ago, the stimulus checks, each individual got $1,200. Does it need to be an individual check mailed to each American again? Does money need to go to the healthcare system, to schools, to local governments to then distribute? What are your thoughts?
The stimulus or increased support is the only way that we can protect the small businessmen, and it comes around full circle. I don't think you can have another lockdown if you don't have a compensating plan in place to help those people, both the small businessmen, the small businesswomen, the independent contractors, the small gig workers. They're in an impossible situation if you know, without some help from the government that they've supported for their whole careers. You can't afford to go back to work necessarily, but you can't afford not to. So the only way that we are going to get any kind of a handle on the economic bloodshed is to have a compensation, a stimulus package directed at the most hard hit.
Republicans and Democrats have been at odds over a second stimulus package and continue to be at a stalemate. Since mid-March, the state of Utah has paid out nearly $1.6 billion in unemployment benefits. This past April saw the worst unemployment numbers in the state, with more than 150,000 Utahns out of a job. Still ahead on this Fox 13 in-depth special report, what our guests think should be done to honor those who have died from COVID-19. Welcome back, everyone. Major events in our country's history have been marked with commemorative walls, statues, and symbolic days of recognition. I want to raise the question of this pandemic being permanently documented. You each have a family member who is no longer here because of the coronavirus pandemic. How would you like them to be remembered? Would it be a special holiday, day of remembrance, a memorial?
My mom's listed on the COVID memorial that's out of New York right now. They did a virtual, projected images of the family members and people that have lost their family up on a wall. I can't remember when. It was a few weeks ago. But it would be cool to have a kind of a day of remembrance in the holiday throughout the year sometime.
Nice.
I think that's a good idea. I've never really contemplated that, but it makes sense. And I think that we do have to memorialize the people who we've lost, because there's been way too many times it's been trivialized or passed aside. And we can't do that. We can't afford to trivialize the destruction it's wrought on everybody's lives. And I think that that's a very good idea to have an ongoing or some sort of permanent memorial for the people.
It would be nice to have a day or a place where his name would be, or his image would be, or his memory would live even after we're not here. We are victims of a political war right now, and I think they deserve to be remembered as heroes.
Would you say there's any silver lining that we can reflect upon?
I think a lot of people had time to reflect on what is actually important. A lot of people that could never stop working to be with their children, now they have to.
Something like this should enable us to be more unified and more cohesive. A lot of people have come to the realization that we need to pull in this together or we're all going to sink.
Definitely going through everything in May, there was so much support, even though it wasn't physical support. Again, technology, all the messages coming in and the support, and so I felt so strong.
Is there anything that you'd like to say to anybody listening about your experience, about what you went through?
This is not a joke. This is not something to be taken lightly. It's really hard to go through this illness and then to go through the aftermath. I think we will not be 100% healthy anymore, ever.
I wouldn't, for the life of me, wish this illness on anybody, because I think that that narrow perception or that intentional narrow-mindedness that it's not as bad as it is, maybe a self-protective mechanism, but it's highly offensive to people who are affected by it. I've had people say to me, it's a hoax. And it doesn't, and did it really say COVID-19 on your mother's death certificate? Because you know the government doesn't tell us everything. Yes, that's highly offensive. That's my message. It's real.
Great. David, thank you so much. Robert.
I just think that my mom would want me to say, go and love more and care about people more.
So sweet. You had a very, very good mom. We want to thank our guests tonight. Robert, Dave, and Gabby's families have paid the ultimate price. And all of us at Fox 13 want you and your family to avoid their same fate. As we say goodnight, here are a few facts to remind you how serious this fight against the coronavirus is. I'm Kelly Chapman, wishing you health and safety.